And I'll tell you something. You guys need to sort of, you know, bow down and respect your Papa Jaffe. Why? Well, because I'm right more than I'm wrong. Okay? Because it was 2 years ago when they showed the goddamn cockadoodie Perfect Dark trailer at Keeley's Game Game Awards, or where, I think that's where it was. And I was like, oh, well, this doesn't look like this doesn't make any sense. This doesn't look very good. This thing could be in trouble, blah, 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 blah. Oh, my God. Go back to the comments, boys. Go back to the comments. Look at them. This was such a bad take, wrote someone. You're a shill. You hate Xbox. You know nothing. On and on and on and on. Well, what happens? Who was right? Who had a goddamn 20-year experience, fucking education to know when shit's going fucking south? I did. Who fucking had it? Look at this. IGN puts out an article. Xbox's Perfect Dark reboot is still years away. What I'm about to read you and point out to you about this article in IGN, Sony was in this exact same place. That's what's funny about this. Is I was there, boots on the fucking ground if I wore boots, more like New Balance on the fucking ground. And I saw the games we greenlit and the games we canceled and the bullshit we believed when some charismatic person came in and pitched some horse shit and then nothing ever worked. We're like, why does the game not work? We spent, 3 years, it's not any good. Yeah, because you don't know what the fuck you're doing at that point. And we got lucky because we had third-party games that we were making money off of, and we also had, surprise hits like Twisted Metal, Warhawk, of course, Naughty Dog stuff, Insomniac stuff. The number of things that we fucking canceled and the mistakes that we fucking made, the fact that they're making these mistakes at this level of Microsoft is fucking batshit. Let me read you some of this reporting. Now, again, it's reporting from anonymous sources, right? So, who knows, but it sounds pretty accurate. Here's what it says. The trailer, which was done by an external CG house, according to a developer who was working on the game at the initiative, says it was very obviously way far ahead of anywhere the game was at. We hadn't, and this is when they showed the game at Keeley's thing. He says, we hadn't even figured out any of the core game mechanics. We didn't even really know what type of game we were making. Okay? So all of that money, God, this drives me nuts because this is fixable. There are people out there who know how to fix this. All these people were out there going, oh, you're wrong, Jaffe. No, it's Perfect Dark. And I'm like, all they were doing was masturbating into the camera, basically, with words. It's going to be this, and it's about eco-terrorism, and no. Fuck you. You don't have shit. You don't even know what your game was, okay? It bothers me. Because it's so easy. Listen to this. Listen to this. According to the conversations with 13 sources familiar with the game's development, little meaningful progress has been made on Perfect Dark since that trailer. Why? Now, I'm just reading you from the article a little bit. This is all coming from Rebecca Valentine of the Virginia Valentines, because it's alliteration, but she really is from Virginia, and her last name is Valentine. They're a good family up there. A little too religious. A little too religious, but not bad. Listen to this. The answer isn't glamorous, she writes, but rather this is why it's in trouble. Wrapped up in the realities of game development, I would add inexperienced game development. The project has seen roadblock after roadblock with problems such as fraught co-development partnership, pandemics, technological challenges, an ongoing exodus of significant talent, and unclear direction from management keeping the game in development limbo. And while a new partnership with Crystal Dynamics appears to finally be bearing fruit, multiple sources who have worked on the game recently say it's still in the earliest stages. So, to its credit, Crystal is getting a handle on it. Apparently, these guys worked with Certain Affinity for over a year, ended up with barely fucking anything, which was handed off to Crystal, and Crystal said, we can't really work with this, okay? So even though the press is telling you, oh, we're doing it together, it's kumbaya, apparently Crystal's pretty much taken over the fucking thing. Here's something else, by the way, that you know is horseshit. And you know is bad experience. And by the way, fuck it, I have a microphone. A couple people watch the show. Just fucking listen. If you work at Microsoft and you're in a position to make changes, recognize this shit. I couldn't do it better than you. I'm not saying you're a fucking moron. I'm saying that The solve is out there. The fact that you guys bought the horseshit boondoggle of, we're going to be the developer, we're the initiative, see? We have the ideas, and we'll work with other people to execute the ideas, and they'll be from movies and comics and graphic novels, and of course, video games, and we'll just stand there and we'll send our ideas out into the ether, and people will make them. My light just went off. I think Phil Spencer hacked my computer. Hopefully you can still see me, or maybe it's better if you don't. That idea, remember when Stubbs the Zombie came out? If I remember correctly, that was their idea as well. We're going to be the idea group. We're going to have very few people working here, and we're going to outsource everything. And it's not exactly what the initiative was doing, but that's a ridiculous concept. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. It works if you're outsourcing. Okay, it works if you're kind of like going, you go build this wall. You handle this part of the game. But you can't, there are too many cooks in a kitchen like this, and there's too many egos, there's too many decisions, and you can't work that way. And they should have known. They should have known that if they had any goddamn experience. But well, this sounds great, let's fucking try this. This could be cool. Listen to this. The director, who I got no beef with any of these people personally. I'm sure everybody works their asses off, everybody learns. I'm not beating up individuals, okay? The director, here's what his plan was, he said. For the initiative to craft a reimagined Project Dark that would be a true blockbuster. Oh, great. What a useless statement. With the best graphics, innovative tech, and gameplay, driven by powerful narrative and a strong protagonist. That's your plan? That's a long way of saying, make it good. Internally at the initiative, early employees recall hearing comparisons to massive TV and film franchises such as Game of Thrones or Westworld. Ugh. Could you be any more tropey? Could you be any more cliche? Everybody does that. We want to make our Westworld. You know, everybody's always talking about it, the water cooler thing. We want that to be our game. Duh. Simply pitching the end result is not the same as having a vision. Everybody wants the same end result. It was like the executives in the goddamn movies after the Avengers came out. And it's like, let's do an Avengers of horror. Let's do an Avengers of the mailmen who deliver our mail. What? I don't know. But there's nothing special about it. You're just pitching me on the end result. It's like saying I'm going to run a marathon. How are you going to do it? At the end, I'm going to run through and bust through, and I'll be the first one to bust through the tape. What? That's nothing. That's nothing. Anyway, listen to this. Gallagher imagined a spy thriller with big, memorable set pieces, lots of physicality, and plenty of gadgets. No details. No details. Everyone I spoke to, says Rebecca Valentine, who recalled hearing the term, said there was never a clear explanation of what quadruple A meant. His plan, sources, I always assumed it just meant it was more expensive than double A. His plan, sources say, meaning Gallagher, was to have the initiative work closely with other partners to become effectively a franchise steward of Perfect Dark that would eventually become a long-running Xbox tentpole. Yeah, sounds great. Good luck, basically. No, Ricardo says, I guess I can get rid of Gallagher from the potential guest list. I have nothing against Gallagher. I got nothing against him. Everybody has to fucking learn. And the guy's experienced. It's not like he's some kind of, brand new developer. And again, he should be there to defend himself in the sense that they didn't interview him, or maybe they reached out and he didn't want to go on record. I don't fucking know. I'm responding to the reporting. That's what's out there. I'm just saying that you can barely get consensus and buy-in from a team that works under the same roof. And now you're basically trying to do it under the same roof and another. Well, lo and behold, what happened? The same thing that always happens in this stupid fucking plan of, we'll be the stewards, we'll be the idea people, and you'll just be the contractor. We're the architects. Well, lo and behold, there was infighting. Nobody knew what anybody wanted. There were very little specifics. The direction was changing all the time. Listen to this. Listen to this. Exactly what the player would be doing to express the ideas that Gallagher had kept changing as ideas were pitched, prototyped, and then scrapped for something completely different over and over again. This is beginner game development 101. This happened all the time at PS1 internal development, constantly. No one knew who was in charge. Everybody had these grand visions. Nobody knew how to execute them. Nobody was able to take those grand visions and say, Let's take that and let's break it down into tasks and figure out what the loop is. What's the core mechanic? What are you doing? That's basic. A basic entry-level video game executive, when they're pitched a game, should be able to say, oh, that sounds great. I love your vision. I love your passion. I love you want to make a game that is a shooter, but it's mechanically metaphorical for the time you grew up and, lost your pappy by a railroad hobo revolt. I don't fucking know. But what do you do? What do you do moment to moment to keep this thing going and to keep me engaged? That's beginner baby shit. If you don't know how to fucking answer that shit. Exactly what the player would be doing to express these ideas kept changing. Perfect Dark moved into its second and third year. Sources tell us the process began to drag on much longer than expected as leadership's refusal to commit to any specific ideas or shape for the game began to frustrate both teams. Yeah, you think Microsoft could step in and say, hey, right, Lutron says, isn't the big problem Microsoft not seeing the problem? That's a big, yes, right. Scott Free says those railroad hobos are lethal. I know. That's why I'm saying you should appreciate that he wants to tell a story about that metaphorically, but he still needs to know what the game is. Yeah, maybe is there's too many cooks in the kitchen, he says. And it's not just that. That's part of it, but it's also you can't sniff your own farts. Game development is understand. And again, I'm not saying I'm good at it, right? I was always fortunate when I had hits to be surrounded by much more disciplined people who had to pin me down and say, dude, you're great. Really, but what do you want it to be? Without that, I would have had nothing. It's important. It's a part of the process. And so it's not just that there's too many cooks, although that's a big part of it. It's that no one was demanding the non-sexy stuff. It's sexy to talk about set pieces and Westworld and water cooler moments, and we're the stewards of the IP, blah, 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 blah. But what's not sexy and not always fun, but what is crucial is you got to build the fucking bones of the fucking foundation before you build a palace on top of it. Certain Affinity and the Initiative employees told me there was, back to Rebecca, seeming a mismatch between Certain Affinity's experience building focused, specific elements of clearly defined games and the Initiative's desire to have a creative partner to bounce ideas off of. As the Initiative began to staff up, the two studios found themselves with numerous redundancies. They had a lot of people leaving. One guy went back, the lead designer went back to work at Insomniac, saying this. I mean, think about it. Think about being at Insomniac, where they are a fine oiled machine, and coming into this fucking nightmare and just going, are you shitting me? This is the Vietnam of video game development. We are never getting out of this. And when we finally do, the ramifications of it will be felt for a long goddamn time. I'm going back home to Ted Price. Thank God he got to go back home. Why were they leaving, though? Rebecca wonders. She ponders. Largely frustration at a perceived lack of forward momentum. That'll kill you, exacerbated by more and more people departing. Listen to this. One developer there, at the time, recalled literally doing almost nothing for 9 months, waiting for positions to be filled and decisions on key game elements to be made. Let me tell you something. This is me making dart guns. I've been here. I have been here. It is insane that Microsoft, that Xbox, with all of their experience, is still here. It's like they haven't even left the starting gate when it comes to production, development, management. Because I did the same thing. I was changing my mind. I had all the freedom in the world for management. It was a top-down shooter. It was an over-the-shoulder shooter. The producer, the programmer said we couldn't do this, so I changed it. Then it became something else, and it became an action movie. I mean, it was ridiculous. It's ridiculous. But I was like 25 years old, and none of us had ever made a game before. Listen to this. Multiple people recall Microsoft Studios had Matt Booty giving a pep talk of sorts. I bet it worked. No, it didn't. Reassuring remaining employees that the parent company thought things were going great. Can you imagine? Can you imagine if you're the parent company and you look at this train wreck and you're like, hey, baby, this is going great. Can you imagine when that person leaves what a moron you must think he is? It's like, are you, and I say this respectfully, Matthew, are you out of your goddamn fucking mind? Jesus fucking Christ. Crystal Dynamics began to step into missing leadership roles when they got it, take more and more ownership. This once again resulted in disagreements and listen to this. This once again, when Crystal, I mean, God, it's like, shut up, Initiative. Just sit down and be grateful you get a paycheck. Listen to this. Crystal Dynamics, well-staffed, began to step into missing leadership roles. This once again resulted in disagreements and infighting in departments that had established leaders at the Initiative. Fuck you! You guys couldn't direct traffic. You don't get you're lucky you're in the room, let alone have a seat at the table. Crystal Dynamics can make a fucking game. They're workhorses. Shut up, be grateful you still have a fucking job. Management, meanwhile, seemed impatient. Really, you think? The Initiative had been working on Perfect Dark in some form since 2018, announced it in 2020, and in 2022, they still didn't have much to show for it. Again, I'm not doing a bit when I'm getting angry about it. It really is me almost like channeling those old days, because I've been here, all of us at Sony First Party, and dare I say, and I have said this before, one of the reasons Sony First Party is so good now, because of the experience of people like Rhodey and Connie Booth and Alan when he was there, is those guys got the shit kicked out of them with canceled projects and bombs and things they spent tons of money on that never went anywhere, because that was boot camp. That was, you know, making games 101. It just happened to work out because we had so many other people supporting and able to sort of bring money in. Thank God for Single Track. I mean, Single Track, who had worked at Evans and Sutherland's that did Warhawk and Twisted Metal, you know, they knew how to produce 3D shit. Multiple sources who worked on Perfect Dark in the last year told me in its most recent iteration, they would consider Perfect Dark to be more of a Crystal Dynamics game than one by the Initiative, of course. Xbox has been remarkably hands-off with this project, not unlike its reported attitude towards Arcane's Redfall. Again, now this guy still has a job. One described the parent company's involvement as simply giving us money and letting us decide how to move forward and requesting milestone updates. I'm not being mean. I'm not being mean to Matt Booty. I'm not, guys. I'm not. The best thing that ever happened was when I learned what I was bad at. We're so conditioned in this society that if you fail, oh, that's bad. No, it's not. It allows you to recognize where you should pivot and, you know, where you want to, you know, what really matters to you and what you have to offer. This is not what he's good at. This is, I've been here. This is so deja vu. This is Matt Booty. One of the things we learned on Perfect Dark is there's a difference between studios that have the creative DNA versus studios that have done more traditional outsourcing. No matter how complex, we just had to find the right rhythm there. Come on, man. So you want to basically tell, I mean, yes, there are people who outsource and they build a company around, we don't really need a creative ownership. We're just here to get the work done so we can actually get paid so we can use that money to fund our own fucking shit. But the idea that you're really going to try to sell that we're the creative company over here and then we're hiring work people to do our bidding. It doesn't work that way, man. It doesn't work that way. Booty goes on to pin the wave of departures, at least in part, on the specific flavor of co-development. Well, then maybe you shouldn't do it. Booty goes on to pin the wave of departures, at least in part, on the specific flavor of co-development that the Initiative is trying to pioneer. Come on, don't fucking try to put fucking lipstick on a pig. Yeah, I mean, it's very challenging because we're trying to pioneer, sort of. Fuck you. Why don't you do it the way it should be done first, then you can fucking pioneer it. Is it perhaps a little different than what has been done over the last 5 to 10 years? Sure. But I think it's more of the way that we're going to see things getting built. Hey, you're not that guy. Matt Booty. You're not that guy. Okay? No one's sitting around to come to you as a futurist of game development. I think it's more of the way we're going to see things getting... Shut up! Ship something. You know who I will listen to? If Neil Druckmann or Shannon Studstill or Scott Campbell or Nick Kononellos or any of these guys that have... Connie Booth says, hey, I think I've been doing this for 20 years. I've shipped a lot of games. I think this is where I'm seeing things pivot. I care. Ship something resembling anything. And then maybe And that's why, despite all the bumps on the road and the hiccups, we've had some people come on board from other traditional teams that show up and go, wait a minute, this is not how I'm used to working. Yeah, because it doesn't work. Because it doesn't work. To all you fucking haters out there, go fuck yourself. All you people who were telling me I was wrong. I don't even know where those things are anymore. I had them all queued up. I can't find them. Let me see. People telling me I'm just fucking hating on this when I was talking about it. Listen to this. There's one guy. This is a group of veteran leaders. This was years ago, 2 years ago, okay? There's a group of veteran leaders with years and years of experience in the industry. I have the absolute faith in them. And kudos to Microsoft for not giving up on this IP. This was 2 years ago, okay? One guy says, Tom says, seriously, Jaffe, this is one of the best trailers I've ever seen. Killer music, great pace, and great suspense of what the game was going to be. This was such a bad take, Jaffe. This seems weirdly premature, Jaffe. Fuck you guys. Fuck you guys. Bookster says, Jaffe, you held a grudge for 2 years over YouTube comments. I didn't hold a grudge. I remembered the ongoing pattern of these fucking fanboys who really should be apologizing to me because I, like some of you out there in this very chat, care about games more than anything else. And they don't. They care about being a fucking fanboy. And it drives me nuts. I don't like it. Respect the art form. Respect the fucking art form. Play where the games are great. That's all that matters.